Permit fishing on the Florida Bay, Everglades National Park. Yesterday, Wayne Johnson, a Canadian fishing guide, and I went out permit fishing, looking for a permit. It is something we like to do on the Florida Bay. It's an exciting fish to catch, and it's a worthy opponent when you catch one the size that Wayne has on at the moment. We first stopped out at an area looking for redfish, but having no luck, we moved right out to our favorite place to try and catch a couple permit. Right now, Wayne has a permit on. He's fighting this fish. He's been fighting it for about 2 minutes now. And it turns out that it's a very, very large fish. First run after he was hooked was about 100 yards immediately right from the boat. So I just started up the engine, idled up towards him until Wayne got a decent distance from him and he could get him under some sort of control. You'll see me moving about the boat for the next several minutes. It's all I could do just to be ready to move the boat, get things out of the way that might cause problems for Wayne while he's catching. Eventually I'm going to lift the trolling motor, which I'm doing right now, so the fish, if it comes in, doesn't wrap around the trolling motor. This is quite a fight. Wayne only has a 7-foot medium weight pole, 20-pound test line, 40-pound test leader. So you're always wondering at this point, with this size fish that turned out to be 40 pounds, whether or not your knots are going to hold, how the tackle's going to hold up under the strain of such a big fish. Wayne, time after time, made gains on the fish, got the fish within 20 or 30 yards of the boat, and the fish would, based on its size and strength, just take off again. There was a period of time when we thought the fish was entangled in the line, which would create a problem and possibly a break-off. But as it turned out, the fish was hooked perfectly in the side of its mouth and didn't cause any problems. Here we go, motoring up again a little bit because the fish took another long run. Only motor for a second, and then from now on Wayne just fights the fish. We were spun around in the boat. My boat weighs about 1,000 pounds, and the fish just kept turning us in circles, and eventually we get facing the sun, which causes a little bit of haze in the picture. The video is being taken by a GoPro 3. It's mounted to my platform in the back of the boat, and it works perfect for applications like this. The total video length is about 21 minutes that Wayne fought this fish for. I'm going to shorten it a bit. I'm considering shortening it a bit so we can put it on YouTube. As you can see, the conditions are perfect. There's no wind. We were able to spot these fish underwater before we even saw their dorsal fin, called the spike, or their tail. We just cast to a shadow that we saw underwater. In Wayne's case, he took one cast. Fish got a little spooked and started taking off. And then before I took a cast, Wayne knew I was going to take a cast. I didn't care. He took a second cast. Fish turned on the crab, a little crab that we had, and snagged onto it, and wham, away he went. After this video, it was my turn to take a shot at a permit. One cast, pretty near perfectly placed in the direction that the fish was traveling. I hooked up with a second permit. It wasn't near the size of Wayne's. Mine was about half the size of Wayne's. Nevertheless, it's always exciting to hook up with a permit, and especially two in one day. After we caught those two permit, we didn't see any more in this area, so we went to several other areas that we know permit hang out. The only problem is the wind started coming up, and that diminishes your ability to see the fish underwater or see them pushing water ahead of them like an underwater wake. So after about 3 hours, we called it quits, went home happy after catching two permit on the Florida Bay. It's been several minutes now that Wayne's been fighting the fish. All I could do was just stand around and watch the action. Fish came up to the boat, saw the boat, took off on several occasions. You can see the boat being actually towed a little bit right now by the fish. If you look at the clouds, you can see the clouds moving, and we're actually going to be heading into the sun with the camera lens, and of course the camera lens is not shaded, so we're going to have a little bit of glare, not too bad, but under ideal conditions we wouldn't have had that glare. Wayne's starting to pour the coal to it a little bit. I'm going to move most of the rods to the other side of the boat, and the plan is to land the fish on the port side without any poles or rods in the way that would cause any kind of entanglement. Making some more headway. In a few minutes you'll be able to see the fish in the water. Permit don't jump. They're not like a tarpon or a ladyfish or trout or barracuda and anything like that. They simply just hunker down, they run off line, and then when you're trying to reel them back, they basically turn almost sideways to you, so that you have this huge mass that you're trying to reel in. So one of the techniques that we employ is when we see a fish going left, we try to bring the rod back to the right, and when we see him going right, we try to bring the rod back to the left. Always in that way, we always try to keep the head coming towards the boat to reduce some of the drag that the fish is creating by staying sideways. Starting the day, we gassed up the boat and went down and got a dozen silver dollar sized crabs from the Yellow Bait Shack and here in Key Largo. Loaded up, headed out, and the rest is history. Wayne's got a 3/0 hook on there. I use a 3/0 circle hook. He likes to use the J hook. He snells his hooks to his line, and I basically tie mine to my line. So we have a little bit of difference in technique. I use 30-pound test fluorocarbon. He uses 40-pound fluorocarbon. I've never had one break off my 30-pound, but for the next trip out, I think I'm gonna try the 40-pound just to be on the safe side. I'd hate to get a fish like Wayne has on and lose it because I had too light a leader tied to my line. Now you can see that we're facing the sun, got a little glare. Fishing in the Florida Keys, any better than this. Making sure that the camera's still going. As you can see, Wayne's still. There's another little run. We were puzzled at a couple times when the fish just actually came up. It almost looked like it was giving up on top of the water. And I guess it got its second and third breaths because it went down again and took off. Fish is still not in view. You can see we're being towed around again. I just don't know what to do with myself watching him. There's the fish. You can see how close he is now, but that doesn't last long. He sees the boat, bzz, takes off. Now Wayne's really, I'm waiting to catch this fish by its tail. It has a narrow section between the tail and the body of the fish, which makes it almost a perfect handle because the tail is so wide. Took me 2 attempts to get the fish on board. The first attempt, the fish was still a little bit green, which we were afraid of. And when I first grabbed him, he just took off right out of my hands, right out of my grip. And Wayne brought him by a second time, and I was able to grab him and hoist them onto the boat, and that's when you're going to see the amazing size of this fish. Now the fish is away from the boat again because he took another little run. It's amazing, a 40-pound fish on a 20-pound test line. If you use your rod correctly and you have your drag set correctly, it's doable, because the fishing rod is the shock absorber and the drag allows for a heavier fish to take out line instead of breaking the line. If the drag was set too tight, pop, it's gonna break the line or break the leader or come apart at the hook. If it's set too light, you're never gonna tire out the fish. You're just gonna keep reeling against nothing. Alright, fish is coming in close. Looks like we're getting ready to make the first attempt to catch this thing. Wayne's really struggling to get them up. When you get them up to the surface of the water, they don't have the ability to propel themselves with their tail that they usually do. Okay, there's the fish in the water, right by the boat. Wants to go around the bow again. He's on the other side of the bow now. That goes against our plan to bring him in on the other side. But using the technique, just turn his head. At this point, when they're not so green or full of piss and vinegar, you can maneuver them a little bit. Still waiting patiently with no fish on the end of my rod to keep me busy. Okay, Wayne's making some headway. Don't want to force these things. Here comes the fish into view again. Okay, I got my glove on. There he is on the surface. Now he's below the surface. You don't want to lift the fish out of the water because your line will break. Almost surely. There he is on the top of the water. Looking a little exhausted. Here comes my first grab. Whoop, not gonna happen. Many times the fish break off when that happens. We were lucky. I get a second shot. Oh, he wants to go under the boat. Bring him up, Wayne. This is the nice thing about a flats boat, you're close to the water. Okay, here comes the second, no, not yet. Here's the second grab, got him. Two hands. Bring him across the rail. Ugh. Now you get an idea pretty soon how big this fish is. Going to get the boga grip with a scale on it. Let's see what it weighs. It bottomed out the scale. We want to get them back in the water as soon as we can. We don't keep permit, we don't kill permit, although they're renowned for their flavor. Here's what a 40-pound permit looks like. Get a couple pictures. Wayne's gonna hold them up. Struggles a little bit. I got some good single shots from my camera that are actually pretty clear without the glare of the sun. This fish went from Wayne's knees to his neck. Now he's going to try to lift him up. A little bit of struggle. There he is. Oh, there he is. Now to release. Going to resuscitate him a little bit. Get some water moving over his gills so he has a better chance of surviving the experience. They go when they're ready. A lot of times if you don't do this, the fish don't survive, or a shark comes by and gets an opportunistic kill. High fives, handshakes, and Wayne's gassed. So it was Wayne Johnson and me, Charlie Best, on the Florida Bay, Everglades National Park. Great day.